In 2022, Smile was a box office and critical hit, so a sequel was as inevitable as a gruesome end when you see one of these smiling faces. But how to approach a sequel? The first wasn't all that original, except for the visual of smiling people with dead eyes, but the execution was fantastic. The film was elevated by clever stylistic choices, strong performances for well-crafted characters, a chilling score, and Finn's directorial talent. So how to approach the sequel? Would Finn look for a new angle on the story, expand the lore, change things up? In many ways, the sequel ended up taking the same approach as the first movie. It takes familiar genre trappings, but executes them with precision, and puts a new, well-crafted character through the ringer. It might be a ringer we know, but with a fresh, new character, the horror, suspense, and thrills work all over again. This movie begins 6 days after the last one, which means Joel is 85% through his approximately 7-day curse deadline, and he looks like he's been put through hell. I had the same look on my face after finishing the last season of Game of Thrones. The last movie introduced the idea that you can escape by killing someone in front of a witness rather than taking your own life. The evil transfers through trauma, so either method works, as long as the kill is messy and traumatic enough. As a cop, Joel tracks down two brothers in the mob he deems ethical targets. Apparently, they killed an innocent mother and kid. It's refreshing to see someone take this approach, because it's the first place your mind goes. You must kill to escape the curse. Okay, let me find a jerk who deserves it. I remember thinking the same thing watching The Ring back in the day. Get that tape to death row and use it as a cheaper method of execution, though that might be considered cruel and unusual punishment. Joel's plan? Kill one brother in front of the other and transfer the curse. Now you're not going to believe this, but things go horribly wrong. Joel does kill one and does make it messy, but his brother, the witness, has a gun. In the ensuing fight, Joel shoots back and accidentally kills him, which means no one to pass the curse to. Except there is someone else there. Lewis, a random guy here to buy drugs. Does he deserve to die? Well, too late. The curse has passed. Now, on to phase 2. Get the hell out of there. And it has to be an expedited escape because those two were not the only members of the gang. More show up, and they aren't jazzed about the killer cop in their stash house. He barely makes it out alive, runs as fast as he can into the middle of the road where he's run over by a pickup truck. At least he dies with a smile, or I should say in a smile. I don't actually think he has a face after what the truck did to him, but all his blood and innards form a smile on the concrete. Finally, title card. What an opening. You might have noticed the whole thing was done as one continuous take. One take, with only one hidden stitch at the point where he jumps out the window. Oneers are always impressive, especially when they involve practical effects like squibs, gunshots, and debris. They're also immersive by putting you in a real-time sequence, especially for something suspenseful like this. Finn does such a good job with this scene. It makes me want to see him step outside horror at some point and do something that's more of a straight-up suspense movie. I also really appreciate how they bring Joel back. It would have been easy to skip his link in the Smile chain. Horror sequels do it all the time, killing survivors off-screen between movies. Now, Joel doesn't get a lot of screen time, but he gets a great sequence that almost functions as its own short film before introducing us to the protagonist of this new movie. Painting a smile with his insides is also a great tone setter, unsettling on one hand, but darkly comedic on the other, which I think is kind of necessary for the Smile universe, where otherwise the tone could be oppressively dark. And gotta love the title card. Different from the first, but still in your face and anxiety inducing. It's now solidified as a hallmark of the franchise, and I look forward to seeing what they do with the title in 3. Meet Sky Riley, once pop sensation, now recovering addict. She nearly lost her life a year ago after a car accident, which killed her then-boyfriend, movie star Paul Hudson. Hey, trauma! Sorry that was insensitive. I was just on the lookout for it, because that's the whole thing with these movies. The main character is always traumatized by something. Like I was after finishing the last season of Game of Thrones. Sky makes her grand return to the public eye on the Drew Barrymore show. Wow, Drew Barrymore! The actress who played Davidson's receptionist in Freddy Got Fingered? For her return, Sky has big plans to re-entrench herself in pop stardom by kicking off a new tour right here in New York City next week. That is, if she's alive next week. The scene begins with us watching the show on TV. Whose TV? Later we'll see this is Lewis's apartment, the guy Joel inadvertently passed the curse to. And why the Drew Barrymore show? Finn wanted to credibly establish Skye as a celebrity. Using a recognizable platform from real life does that. Barrymore is also a nice choice thanks to the Scream connection. Seeing her first through a TV screen also introduces us to a celebrity the way we're used to seeing them, as outsiders, before we push into the screen when we're invited into her world. It's important at the start of a story to get us interested in a character. One way to do that is to give them a profession or lifestyle we're unfamiliar with. It creates automatic curiosity to see what their lives are really like. Similar to the billionaires of Succession, you wonder what's it like for them behind closed doors. In Smile 2, what's it like to be a famous pop star who happens to be a recovering addict about to deal with a metaphysical evil? Now that only works if the actress can pull it off, and Naomi Scott is great. Both as the public figure Skye, where she's believable as a pop star sensation, and behind the scenes as someone with complex struggles in her personal life. Naomi Scott is actually a singer and co-wrote some of the character's songs in the movie. As we enter her world, we quickly undercut the image shown to the public. Oh, she has a new hairstyle. A quick cut reveals it's the result of an anxious compulsion. She's been ripping out her own hair. I did the same thing after watching the last season of Game. Okay, I'll stop. We see some of Skye's rehearsal, and it's always risky when a movie tells you someone is a music star, because inevitably, we're going to hear some of that music. And it's quite the thing to write original songs and tell us they're famous, because in reality, the audience decides that, not you. But I thought they did a great job. The songs sound like something people would listen to. They function as emotional windows into her world, and I was honestly transfixed by the choreography. Look how they're spinning her around. It's amazing. All in all, the rehearsals are going well, except the residual pain from last year's accident is bad. Bad enough she needs Vicodin, which no one will prescribe thanks to her history of drug abuse. That's where Lewis comes in. Skye pays him a visit, and Lewis is in quite a state. It's unfamiliar to her, but we've seen it before in Laura, Rose, and Joel. People on the tail end of a deadly curse. It comes to a head when he screams in terror, then falls to his knees with a wide open mouth. We know the smile demon is crawling inside him now, but all we see is what Skye sees. Lewis choking on nothing, then smiling with dead eyes, before grabbing a 35-pound weight and smashing his own face in 3 times, turning it into the goriest smile of the franchise so far. I thought that was an effective kill, especially with how drawn out it is. The repeated blows to the face lead to the morbid curiosity of watching a train wreck in slow motion. You can't help but wonder how many hits it's going to take, and how messed up is that face going to look after each smash? The answer? Very. It's also a horrifying enough image on its own that it makes for a great, terrifying motif that'll carry through the rest of the movie, just that squelching sound alone. Thematically, I like that Skye chose to be here. This isn't like Rose, where a smile-infected patient was just put in front of her in the first movie. No, Skye chose to come here in search of Vicodin. I'd argue the punishment doesn't fit the crime, but considering Skye's trauma is one born of self-destructive behavior, it feels appropriate that her curse should be born there too. And I have to shout out Lucas Gage's performance. He plays Lewis with just the right amount of terror and humor.
Your text said to come over!
What?
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 Now, a note on lore. Finn has said he isn't too interested in over-explaining the entity because he believes the unknown is important in maintaining fear, but he does provide some hints in this movie, especially around the entity's capabilities. For example, we get clues here that it doesn't necessarily wait for any old witness, but actively lures them, perhaps based on how much delicious trauma they have in their head. Go back a few minutes to the part where the Drew Barrymore show is playing on Lewis's TV. Who was watching it? Seemingly nobody, But at times in both movies, the camera feels like an ominous force, watching our characters as though it represents the entity's eyes. On the commentary track, Finn said he likes the idea that maybe the entity was watching Skye on Lewis's TV. Maybe that's how it decided on her as the next victim. In this scene, Lewis doesn't remember texting with Skye when she asked to come over.
I don't remember texting that. How come I don't remember texting that?
Maybe that's because the entity took control of him to lure Skye here. Not only is she filled with delicious trauma, but she's in the public eye, meaning it'll be easy to find more witnesses. More on that later. After witnessing Lewis's horrifying death, what to do now? Maybe call the police? That would seem like the logical move, but the movie has done a great job establishing how bad it would be for Skye to be found at an apartment filled with drugs. Now, when she's just starting to turn things around, not to mention the dead body. We also see the return of Finn's dynamic camera, with a zoom into Skye's eyes and transition to the upside-down cityscape, combined with DeVere's awesomely anxious score. It's all appropriately disorienting, and in terms of setting this sequel apart from the first movie with a fresh coat of paint, part of that is the unique character of Skye Riley, and another part is New York City. It's an unusual setting for horror, especially when a character is meant to feel increasingly isolated as the story goes on, something they really achieve with the set design of her apartment. It looks so nice, but also horrible, like a mausoleum. She's surrounded by life outside those windows, but the large empty place feels dark and isolated. Part of Hollywood's ongoing campaign to convince us, trust us, being rich sucks. Question, by the way, do you drink water? I'm just kidding. Of course you do. But you know who else drinks water? Poor people. Gross, I know. That's why we're happy to announce this movie is brought to you by Voss, artesian water from Norway in a glass bottle. This is the water rich people drink, just like Skye Riley, who has about 5 Voss drinking scenes in the movie. Actually, this wasn't product placement at all, and they weren't paid to include it in their movie. The director just saw it as the right choice for a couple of reasons. Voss seems like the pretentious sort of water a famous pop star might insist upon, and if your character is going to get scared and drop a bottle of water, it's a lot more visceral if it shatters to pieces. A Poland Spring bottle bouncing and maybe dribbling a little water out the side of those annoyingly tiny little caps that are impossible to get on right. Not as scary. So why does she drink so much of it? It's later explained as something her therapist from recovery suggested, that anytime she feels the urge to use or get drunk, she should drink a full glass of water, a way to acknowledge what she can and cannot control. After downing the water and getting ready, Skye turns in for some shut-eye. When she hears that sound, squelching, dripping, she makes the mistake of opening her eyes to see Lewis and his grotesque visage standing above her, until she turns the lamp on, and he's gone. She lays her head back down and stares up at the ceiling. Cut to her sitting in makeup, another appropriately disorienting edit. Skye's mom is concerned about her obvious lack of sleep, but is she concerned as her mother or manager? The lines are blurred, and actress Rosemary DeWitt does a great job capturing that balance. In any case, Elizabeth Riley is concerned about her daughter and recommends she get back in touch with her old friend Gemma. Gemma used to accompany Skye on her tours and help out with things, but also a close friend. Someone good to have around and keep her balanced, but also someone Skye fell out with when things went to hell last year. While Skye deals with her overbearing mother, a new player enters the scene, Darius, a music executive she has to keep happy. And wouldn't you know it, he has a favor to ask. Would she be a special presenter at his fundraiser dinner for Music Inspires Hope tomorrow night, a foundation for underprivileged youth? After what appears to be a Bene Gesserit-inspired photo shoot, Skye takes out her phone to Google, does vomit have DNA? Then she thinks about texting Gemma. Love how you can still see their old texts. I hate when movies show a character texting someone they obviously would have texted before, but there's no text history. It breaks the reality of it. Here, it adds a touch of realism and a small window into just how badly things soured between them. While drafting a note to her old friend, she gets a new text from an unknown number. Were you at Louis Fragoli's apartment last night? Then that squelching sound again. Now he's in the mirror behind her with his mangled face only obscured by hers. When she moves, he moves the same way, like he's Groucho Marx or something, until suddenly his fingers are in her mouth, pulling her lips into a smile. Here we start to see how Skye is already breaking with reality. Her mom, assistant, and others were knocking on the door, but she didn't answer. Then they heard her scream and finally let themselves in. Skye's next encounter with the entity comes at a fan meet and greet, but first, a creepy guy who gets way too close and gives strong stalker vibes before security has to remove him. Then, perhaps worse, the Smiler, a little girl with braces who never stops smiling at her with those familiar dead eyes. Clearly, no one else is reacting to her strangely, so I assume the girl is real but acting normally, while the entity makes it look like a weird smile in Skye's mind. By the way, these movies don't really establish nomenclature for the entity, partly because no one really knows what it is. But one thing I noticed on the director's commentary is that Parker Finn consistently refers to the smiling people as smilers. Back home, Skye finally calls Gemma and leaves a nervous voicemail. Gemma immediately calls her back and is surprisingly open to coming over, as in right now. She'll be there in 45 minutes. In the meantime, a word from our sponsor, Voss. Then piano time. She plays a new song she's been writing until she's interrupted by glass shattering. Possibly the scariest part of the movie. Just think, all that artesian water, wasted. Then she spots a t-shirt on the ground, the one she signed for that stalker Alfredo. Down the hall, more clothes, shoes, socks, dirty underwear. Ew. And at the end of it, Alfredo himself, nude, staring at her in the dark. He chases her to the front door. On the other side of it, she finds Gemma. Here already? Anyway, knowing the stalker is still in the house, Skye arms herself with a what the hell is that thing? Skye picks up a conjoined, oversized, bottomless mugs as a weapon, and Gemma follows behind as she scouts the apartment to find no stalker. No broken glass, it was all in her head. And how did Gemma get here so fast? She didn't. They talked an hour ago, but for Skye, it went by in a haze. Skye apologizes for how she treated her estranged friend, and in seconds, Gemma accepts her apology. It's almost too good to be true. With this friend at her side, Skye can finally tell someone what happened, and she does. She saw Louis die horribly by his own hands. Should she go to the police? No, Gemma insists. It wasn't your fault, and if you get connected with a drug dealer's death, it'll ruin everything. Gemma offers to spend the night, and of course, Skye takes that offer. Fade to black. Gemma is great, by the way. Dylan Galula brings another source of levity to the movie with her frank and dry humor, like when Skye tells her about how she saw Louis grab a weight.
He, just smashed his whole face in with it.
What? Ew, oh my god, what?
She's also so different from Skye's public persona, you could see how she would bring balance to her life. Fade back into Skye, disoriented, bloody face, bones sticking out of her leg. To her side, Paul Hudson with his head smashed in. She screams. Soon, we realize this is the aftermath of that car accident last year, a flashback. She wakes from this nightmare of the past to her present reality, itself a nightmare. At least Gemma is there. Gemma understands what she's going through, so Skye opens up some more.
I don't know why I destroy everything. I feel like my brain is this really fucked up place.
So she tells Gemma how she feels trapped in that brain of chaos and noise, all alone in the darkness. She just wants to quiet the noise, but doesn't know how.
It's because you're a horrible person.
Skye turns and sees she's in bed with a smiler, wearing the face of her best friend. And oh my god, her face lights up at the sound of a horn. Skye gets up, suddenly it's morning. Gemma is back to normal. She's just getting ready for the day now. And Skye is late, her mom is gonna kill her. I love setting the flashback to the aftermath of the car accident a ways into the movie. That way you're not quite sure what's going on at first. It takes you a second to orient yourself, which is exactly what Skye is going through in that scene. It wouldn't have had nearly the same effect if the scene were shown earlier in a more natural place. Finn also has to get creative, finding new ways into the scares without repeating himself from the first movie. Finding a smiler in bed definitely adds a new level of violation and discomfort. I hated when her heads turned into headlights, to be honest though. That was just goofy to me. They rush to rehearsal, which goes well, until Paul appears and that bone sticks out of her leg again. She falls over, they cut, and suddenly, no Paul, no broken leg. Just Skye having returned from another break with reality. And who knocked her down? It's hard to watch her blame her backup dancers for what happened, and that's a nice window into how this all looks from the outside perspective. On her walk back to the dressing room, she finds her assistant walking out of it, wearing a familiar smile. And then she finds the room trashed. It must have been him who did it, but he was with her mom all day. Who is the real culprit? Parker Finn, the director. He got to dress this set himself by going at it with a bat, which apparently he quite enjoyed. With the revelation of yet another misalignment with reality, Skye is spiraling. This tour was a bad idea, but Elizabeth reminds her daughter she has to present at Darius's fundraiser tonight. She can't get out of it, which really captures how trapped you can feel by your own success. Ostensibly, Skye's rich and powerful, yet she seems to have to struggle for every inch of agency. Not so powerful after all. The fundraiser goes well, considering. Sure, she smudges her lipstick trying to swat a fly away while getting another text from that unknown number saying he knows who she is. Sure, she hallucinates the teleprompter freezing up, forcing her to improvise, and she gets way too honest about how difficult things have been for her.
You can't escape the miserable thing that you've become, and one day you realize how badly you wish you could just trade it all just for one fucking moment of happiness.
And ends the speech by introducing Paul Hudson, the actor who lost his life in the crash. Sure, she sees Paul in the audience grinning at her like a madman. He shows up in front of her, and startled, she knocks an elderly woman off the stage. You know, thinking about it again, I actually don't think that went well at all. That might actually have been the worst it could have possibly gone. If Paul's smile feels oddly, horrifyingly familiar, by the way, it should. He's played by Ray Nicholson, Jack Nicholson's son. In this scene, they were very aware of the Jack Torrance of The Shining vibes and intentionally leaned into it. After the disaster at the fundraiser, Skye reaches out to her friend Gemma again, but she hasn't been replying to texts. Where is she? And that unknown number reaches out again. You're in serious danger. I can help you. We need to meet. Who is this? Skye replies, and he answers, You're not imagining things. Everything you're seeing is real. Louis Fergoli posted this 4 days ago. It's a frantic video. Louis trying to capture the thing he's seeing on camera. Look closely. Do you see it in the dark? Shh. Focus, focus. Alright, I wanted to include the jump scare from the movie here, but that feels mean. Skye doesn't see anything in the video, but while she's focused, she gets jump scared by Undead Louis, appearing for a second next to her, yelling her name. This was intentionally a repeat of the waveform jump scare from the first movie, where Rose hears her name whispered in the recording of Laura's death, but Finn was hoping by changing things a bit, by having you visually focused on something, rather than listening for a whisper, he'd be able to get you all over again. With nowhere else to turn, she puts on a disguise and opts to meet with Unknown. Really cool transition through the elevators to the New York City streets. Not sure it serves any particular purpose, other than furthering the visual style of the movie with stylized transitions and camera movements, contributing to that dreamlike, disorienting tone. At the bar, she meets, Taub from House, played by Peter Jacobson. And in Smile, we got Judy Reyes, who played Carla in Scrubs. I'm enjoying the trend of hospital show crossovers. Hopefully Smile 3 keeps it up and brings on someone from the pit. So who is this guy? His name is Morris. He lost his brother to the same thing going after Skye now. His brother tried to tell him what was going on, and Morris didn't listen, until he found out that his brother tore his own jaw off with a crowbar. This metaphysical being, as he calls it, is a parasite, which feeds off all the bad stuff in your head, before making you kill yourself in front of another witness, passing it on to them. 8 people before Skye, it got his brother. He's been following the chain ever since, trying to stop it. He tried contacting Joel, but he went off the grid. Then he tried Louis, but found him dead. Checking his phone revealed Skye was the last one he contacted. What does he want with Skye? He wants her to help stop this thing. In his research, he's found that chains stop when someone dies outside the entity's control. His guess is that, like other parasites, it requires a living host. He wants to kill Skye before it can use her to move into someone else. But they only technically need to kill her. As an ER nurse, he knows how to somewhat safely stop her heart, then start it again. And they have to do it now. She's nearly out of time. It's been feeding on her for 3 days. It's already taking control of her brain.
Pretty soon, you won't even realize the ways it's manipulating you, and then it'll be too late to stop it. We have to go right now.
It's a lot to ask so quickly, and before Skye can even consider it, she's recognized and swarmed by fans. She escapes back home. Now, the kill yourself to escape an unseen force idea sounds familiar. To be fair, Final Destination Bloodlines came out after this movie. Then again, Final Destination 2 beat it by over 2 decades. I enjoy the Morris character. It's fun to watch someone try to apply rationality and a scientific approach to the monster. We don't normally see it because typically the characters are breaking with reality and days away from death. But Morris has been able to follow this thing methodically for weeks. There's also some humor to the frank way he discusses something so insane, especially when she's like, "So what do you want to do?" "Well, I need to kill you, but just for like a couple minutes though." That night, things get worse. She gets a visit from a whole group of Smilers in the guise of her backup dancers. They follow her every move in perfect synchronicity. Every time she looks away and then back, they've drawn closer. Soon, they're all over her. They slam her head against the piano hard, rip a chunk of her hair out, and one shoves an arm all the way down her throat. Fade to black. I feel like the scene should have been terrifying, but watching a bunch of dancers moving in conjunction with each other felt almost too goofy to me. I couldn't help but feel like I was watching a bunch of theater kids in a bizarre acting exercise, especially when you actually see them moving. It was a bit more effective for me when she'll look away, then suddenly find them in another position, and it definitely got intense when they crossed the line into physical violence. And of course, Finn has to find a way to make that violence as violating and off-putting as he can, like the arm down the throat thing. Fade in onto one of the most tense and claustrophobic scenes in the movie, a flashback to the lead-up of the accident. Paul and Skye are arguing, each trying to outdo the other and hurling insults. The escalations eventually get physical. You know the accident is coming, but still, seeing the precarious mountain road against the chaos inside the car, all done in another oneer that makes you feel trapped in this nightmarish moment in real time. Among all the horror in the movie, this is the one that gives me the most anxiety. In part because it feels so real. You feel like you've seen or maybe been a part of arguments like this. And in the end, though Paul was the one driving, Skye was more responsible for the accident than we initially realized. She's the one who grabbed the wheel and threw them off the road. Nicholson is also great in this scene, and once again echoes his father as Jack Torrance.
Are you gonna cry now? Is that your name? Oh, God. Oh, you look so fucking ugly when you cry. It's horrible. I can't.
Skye wakes up at a retreat with her mom at her bedside. Apparently, Skye fainted and hit her head. It takes about a minute before Mom is talking about the tour. Skye can't take it anymore. They have to cancel the show. That leads to an argument. There are no second chances after this. She needs the tour. How can Skye be so selfish after everything her mother and everyone else has done for her?
I wish you could feel what it's like having to live inside my head.
That's when her mother reveals herself as a Smiler, and in a demonic voice tells her, "I've tasted what's inside your head." She breaks a mirror, grabs a shard, and stabs herself repeatedly in the neck, her eye. Except, why is Skye covered in blood and holding the shard? Because she's the one who stabbed her mother. She is now a murderer. She does her best to sneak out of the building, which requires her to pull a gun off a security guard and force her way outside, where she finds Gemma. Her mom called her earlier. They steal a car and head to Staten Island.
I need to get to Staten Island.
What? Gross. Why?
Come on, Parker Finn, low blow and too easy. Why Staten Island? That's where Morris is set up for Operation Kill Skye, but only technically. You know, Skye could really use a friend right now. Wouldn't you know it? Her phone rings, and it's Gemma, finally calling her back after that voicemail she left a few days ago. Wait a minute. If Gemma is calling, who is driving the car right now? It's a smiling Gemma. No, wait, Skye herself is driving. Skye, who barely knows how to drive. But she does manage to reach the abandoned Pizza Hut where Morris intends on stopping her heart. Why a Pizza Hut? For the freezer. Lower body temperature will delay necrosis and decrease the likelihood of brain damage. I'd say don't try this at home, but we all know when we see the next TikTok trend and there's no stopping it. This whole sequence is probably what puts Smile 2 over the first movie for me. It's just a whole new level of emotional turmoil. Not just, oh my god, I killed my own mom, but now, how the hell am I going to get out of this? You feel the walls closing in on her more than they ever did for Rose. There's such an intensity watching her try to escape the facility, and even before that, things are nightmarish, like the IV needle that's way too long. And let's talk about Gemma. How long has she been fake? It would seem the entire time. When she calls Skye now, it's in reply to the voicemail from a few days ago, and that was Skye's first attempt at contact. So in reality, they have not spoken or seen each other at all, and it makes sense in retrospect. Gemma replied to that voicemail way too fast, showed up at Skye's home way too fast, and most of all, forgave her and reconciled way too fast. Why? All part of Smiley's manipulation. For example, Skye thought about calling the cops after Lewis, and Gemma dissuaded her. It was all part of keeping Skye on the path to where the entity wants her to end up. At the Pizza Hut, she lies on the table. Morris goes to get his things, but doesn't come back. Instead, Skye meets face to face with Skye Smiley, my name for the Smiler version of Skye. In Rose's final battle in Smile, the entity wore her mother's face because that was the source of her trauma. So it's fitting in Smile 2 for the self-destructive Skye to face herself. And just like in Rose's final stand, there is a moment of triumph. The entity sticks her thumbs into Skye's mouth. So, Skye bites him off and injects herself with the stuff that's supposed to temporarily stop your heart. Except none of this is real. Skye is not at a Pizza Hut right now. She's at a Papa John's. Oh god, no! Oh no, never mind. Actually, she's on stage about to kick off her tour. In the audience, she spots her mom, so we know that murder never happened. And in front of her on stage, Skye Smiley. Out of the scar on her belly from last year's car accident, the entity climbs out. For a moment, we see the sheer size of it in all its glory, before it pulls open her mouth, crawls inside, and in front of thousands, Skye smashes in her own face with a microphone. Which is quite the setup for a theoretical Smile 3. Can the entity spread to multiple people at once? Can it spread to thousands at once? It's hard to imagine the next movie would go in that direction, because Smile 1 and 2 have both been such isolating movies. But what happens when a bunch of people are experiencing the same thing at the same time? It could be really interesting if Finn pulls it off, but it definitely would be challenging. Anyway, overall, I thought Smile 2 was even better than the first movie. It dug deeper into the protagonist's trauma and it fleshed her out as a more interesting character. It was also a bit more of a roller coaster ride and did a better job tricking me into thinking there's a chance. It still feels a little unfair in the end, like this demon can just do anything. It somehow possessed Skye to convince the world she's okay and got her all the way to the point where she's on stage ready to perform. So to the outside world, was she just acting totally normal for the hours leading up to the show? It's a bit undefined and feels like it could easily go off the rails, but it ends on that intriguing, memorable note. The much bigger Smile demon, do you think it grows with every transfer? So is it going to be huge in Smile 3? And of course, having the final kill in front of a huge crowd. It's a wild ending, and I am excited to hopefully see a third one. Month of Terror continues tomorrow with It.